Good afternoon and welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical. My article over the weekend was about China turning 70. I started by quoting Don DeLillo, "Longing on a large scale makes history," wrote Don DeLillo, and these words streamed into my consciousness as I watched the celebrations in Tiananmen Square, which were marking the 70th anniversary of Chinese Communist Party rule. Xi Jinping and the party were seeking to project national power and confidence on a grand scale. Nothing and nobody was going to reign on this parade. The pomp and pageantry included a parade that involved 15,000 soldiers and sailors, 160 planes, 580 tanks and other weaponry, including what Xijin, President Xi's trusted mouthpiece, described as, "This is the legendary DF-41 ICBM, but it is not a tail. Today, it is displayed at Tiananmen Square. I touched one about 4 years ago in the production plant. No need to fear it, just respect it, and respect China that owns it," he tweeted. My friend Hervé Gogo and I were simultaneously bamboozled by the all-women militia selected from the militia force in Beijing's Chaoyang district, who were a Sun Tzu-level knockout blow and certainly more than the legendary DF-41 ICBM, which Mr. Xijin is welcome to keep as long as he hands over the ladies, who are most welcome to stream in my dreams. President for life Xi has been fending off a trade war and has been dealing with the flaring up on the periphery, but last week was his opportunity to paint on a blank canvas and show the world who he is and what China wishes to be. No force can stop the Chinese people and the Chinese nation forging ahead, he said. The president for life was seeking to project a sense of inevitable forward motion and a fulfillment of the promise that Mao Zedong made on the founding of the People's Republic of China on October the 1st, 1949, that China would stand up. They have stood up. Xi's model is one of technocratic authoritarianism, and a recent addition to his bookshelf included The Master Algorithm by Pedro Domingos. Xi is building an algorithmic society. Some of the Z-era slogans are short and simple in the manner of Western advertising, such as the Chinese dream, the catchphrase embodying the party's aim to become a global power by 2049, the 100th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China. In a way, this is also nothing new, but Xi has taken the propagation of ideology and the cult of personality to extremes not seen since the days of Chairman Mao. Xi, in fact, has replaced Jesus in the churches and Muhammad in the mosques. Unity is iron and steel. Unity is a source of strength. Complete reunification of the motherland is an inevitable trend, and no one and no force can ever stop it, he added. Today, we know the Chinese economy is slowing, but Xi is relying on Chinese resilience. If there is a decoupling between the two economies, so be it. The Chinese people can endure more pain than the spoiled and hubristic Americans. The folks in Hong Kong, whom Xi is seeking to unmask so he can exercise algorithmic control over them, are in open rebellion. Joshua Wong told German media, "Hong Kong ist das neue Berlin," referencing the Ich bin ein Berliner speech given by the United States President John F. Kennedy on the 26th of June 1963 in West Berlin. I am sure Xi sees Hong Kong and Taiwan like a virus, and he is looking to impose a quarantine, just like he has imposed on Xinjiang. The Chinese dream has become a nightmare at the boundaries of the Han Empire. The world in the 21st century exhibits viral, wildfire and exponential characteristics and feedback loops which only become obvious in hindsight. I would venture that Xi's high watermark is behind him. Shorting the renminbi is a bit of a no-brainer. The pork apocalypse speaks to a very fragile food situation. The periphery requires a lot more finesse than more blunt force. But he can rely on a US president whose dereliction of his international duty is now in plain sight. China will not interfere in the internal affairs of the US, and we trust that the American people will be able to sort out their own problems, China's very subtle Foreign Minister Wang Yi said in response to questions around Trump's pursuit of Biden and his personal political agenda at the price of the US's international agenda. Beneath this mask there is more than flesh. Between this mask there is an idea. An idea is a bulletproof Joshua Wong. There is no end game. That's the infinity war that Hong Kong people are willing to engage in, Joshua Wong. We will refuse Hong Kong turning into one country, one system. The wounded kid was taken to Tiananmen Hospital. Dozens of Hong Kong police now stationing in the hospital and ready to arrest the kid, de Mos Isto. Kyle Bass, Hong Kong capital controls are next. The ERO gives Lam eminent powers to seize bank accounts, turn off the internet, seize property and arrest at will. This all coming to you courtesy of Carrie and Xi's great misadventure, he said. The FT, China and Hong Kong, the ultimate test of authoritarian rule. As the Dongfeng 41, a new Chinese missile capable of delivering 10 nuclear warheads to anywhere in the US, rumbled along Beijing's main avenue this week in China's biggest ever military parade, Xijin did not attempt to conceal his glee. Don't mess with the Chinese people or intimidate them, tweeted Mr. Hu. Just hours later in Hong Kong, which returned to China's rule in 1997, a very different scene played out. Hundreds of thousands of pro-democracy protesters thronged the streets, some clashing violently with police. In one location, a crowd gathered to throw eggs at a portrait of Xi Jinping, the powerful Chinese leader who led the parade in Beijing. Every time an egg hit Mr. Xi's face, a cheer surged up from the crowd. Was Mr. Xi's missile-packed pageantry indicative of an emerging superpower or a brittle, paranoid regime? In the absence of direct elections, the popularity of authoritarian regimes is hard to gauge, but the outpourings of pride on Chinese social media this week suggested Mr. Xi's parade was a genuine hit with ordinary Chinese. Most Chinese viewed the parade with enormous pride and euphoria, says Yu Zi, Senior China Research Fellow at Chatham House, a UK think tank. Ruchir Sharma, Chief Global Strategist at Morgan Stanley, has found that since 1950 there have been 43 cases in which an economy grew at an average annual rate of 7% or more for a full decade. A full 35 of these booms, or 81%, took place under an authoritarian government. Beijing has no intention of abandoning its political model. Due to China's vast territory and complicated national conditions, the governance of China is uniquely difficult, said the government report. Without centralized, unified and firm leadership, China would have tended toward division and disintegration and caused widespread chaos beyond its own borders. Hong Kong is another data point illustrating the same troubling trend of a government that believes might is right and is totally dismissive of the enormous risks and potentially catastrophic consequences of its actions, says Min Zin Pei, professor at Claremont McKenna College in the US. In one frequent protester taunt, mainlanders are described as caged birds, too scared to emerge from behind their bars. Beijing is finding that Hong Kong is not the only place to where repression does not travel. Voters on the island of Taiwan, which Beijing pledges to take back before 2049 as part of its plan for the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation, have also been alienated by the mainland's assertiveness. The nature of the regime should be clear by its actions in Hong Kong, Xinjiang and Tibet, says Brigadier General Robert Spalding, a former senior official in the Trump administration's National Security Council. It is a totalitarian dictatorship bent on spreading its vision of IT-based social control as a means of securing the Chinese Communist Party's continued rule. This is a photograph of military vehicles carrying the DF-41 ballistic missiles as they rolled during China's largest weapons parade. Birdie Word tweeted, "Don't think the mask ban is working very well." And I was referring to the pork apocalypse, and China is now breeding giant pigs the size of polar bears as the African swine fever causes a pork shortage.